people love you and you win. Woo. And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won. Bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't. Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the motherfucker.
That Spitfire is Rashid Tlaib. I love that woman. And I've always made the point, I've even made the point that if I wasn't necessarily married, it'd be you. But I am married. So let's talk politics. She told her kid, we're going to impeach that motherfucker. And they impeached that motherfucker. Twice. First time around, this channel argued that it was not deserved in the least, that basically it was Russiagate nonsense, and Joe Biden himself was pretty much guilty of the thing that they were accusing Trump of. There's that. Second time around, however, not so much. Donald Trump jumped the shark, and that's exactly where this impeachment landed. Is it a political process? Yes, but it is politics. And in the sense of Trump, I got to be honest, from my standpoint, Trump not only should be impeached, Trump has to be impeached, despite the fact that he's going to walk. And I'm going to make the argument why I think Donald Trump should basically be impeached. That the arguments of, he's not necessarily in office right now, or they don't necessarily hold up. Donald Trump did something that was fundamental betrayal in regards to his office, but not just the office, to the public itself. And not to mention, on a more deep and fundamental way, obliterated the bargain. Social bargain, that thing that we kind of organize around. We comply with sovereign power because we look at it as the collective. There's a certain savage group of thugs that can beat people up and put them in prison. But also, on some level, because of the ability to interact and engage with that particular system and make alterations in that system for the betterment of yourself and the betterment of the society. Donald Trump obliterated that process. I don't care whether you're a Republican. I don't care whether you're a Democrat. Be honest. With the entire time, him petitioning, trying to get the election overturned, during the time he was going after Pence, trying to get Pence to basically, again, do something that Pence didn't necessarily have the power to do. The reality of it is, though, power is often taken. It's not necessarily given. And if Pence would have tried it, he would have caused another constitutional crisis. I'm making a point that at every step of the way, Donald Trump took one action after the next to subvert the electoral process. This channel was not hard on the notion of Donald Trump calling for a recount. I have no issue with that at all. In fact, I would prefer to know whether or not an individual won versus not, even if it's not necessarily somebody I like. At the very least, it's a group choice. That's the way I look at it. That's part of the contract, right? And so when you have this situation where the president loses, and from the time he loses, continues on basically saying, I'm not going to concede. I didn't lose anything. I want all of these elections going out where we can do recounts. And you get your recounts. You get your investigations. You get your lawyers out there, trying to harass people. In some cases, even beating people up, almost shot a guy. And you have your propagandists come out and make their arguments about why you're innocent of this, how all of this stuff was taking place that is apparently against you. And then at the end of it, you still come out and say, I was cheated. It was a landslide. Be honest. If you have, 20, 30 million people, let's say 40, that vote for you. And let's say a significant percentage love you so much that they don't care about the democracy stuff. They don't care about the representative government stuff. They will perfectly be okay in this kind of fascist government. And they look at Trump as their guy because that guy was perfectly willing to throw out the old order. And by the old order, I'm talking about the current system of government to which we have. By no means is it perfect. It will not be made better with a fascist taking over where the rule set fundamentally is obliterated. Donald Trump needs to be impeached. Welcome to the soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. And yeah, the channel is back monetized. They sent a thing, I think, yesterday, basically saying, hey, we reviewed this. We were a little over-aggressive in taking your channel down. So wait, you basically say you're acting as a publisher when you took my channel down. Isn't that a breach of Section 230? Why wasn't it overtly clear one way or the other that there was no harm on the channel in the defamatory way that you basically said I was harming people. So yes, the channel was reactivated. Look, I know some people like Trump, and you can like Trump, but there's something more fundamental about this notion that all of us on some level agree in somewhat of a representative government. And in doing so, having the ability to have some influence, even if that influence is minute on some level, you still have the capacity to grip people to your cause and affect the political space. Regardless of how ossified, regardless of how difficult it is, all of that stuff is true. None of those things are improved by a strongman basically taking power, which is exactly what Trump would have done if any of those people, any of those Republicans, had basically been able to stop this process. Or for that matter, if any of the other people that were involved in that, let's say Raffensperger and Secretary of State of Georgia, let's say some of the other Republican governors joined in with that particular march, let's say some in the House was joining in, he would have taken power. I don't think you realize how close this was. Meaning, if Republicans held the Senate and Democrats and Republicans held the House, would Donald Trump still be president now? And would those Republicans work on their behalf to keep him in office? And whether those Republicans would do it or not is almost besides the point, since Donald Trump himself was openly, in public, asking people to basically break their own vow of office to keep him in office. Yes, that's a betrayal. It breaks the rule set. If I can't trust that when you lose, you're going to go the fuck away, then why should I play the game? Right? If we can't have an honest thing of saying that guy, he may be horrible, he may be grotesque, he's going to give a ton of money to war criminals. Yes, he's going to do all those horrible things. But if at the very least, I know the guy's leaving in 4 years. If I can't trust that this person is going to go into that office and leave in 4 years, then you have a problem. You have a fundamental break in your contract. Why should we play this game if the game rule set are not going to be made for both of us? And in this very specific case, Donald Trump was perfectly willing to win, but was not willing to lose even when he lost. That is a big fucking deal. This notion of a concession speech it's one of the most important functions on the day that a candidate loses. Because all of those people that came before Trump understood how fragile representative government is, how fragile society is. And they had enough sense, or at the very least enough of a concern or understanding of the office, or at the very least empathy, and some of the most unempathetic people understood that this is a way to danger. If you're going to have a lot of people that believes that the system itself was basically broken, 30 million people thinking that the guy was cheated, what percentage of those people are going to act? It was known in advance what was going to happen. And he did it anyway. And he did it for his own selfish whims, his own ego. Mendacious as all fuck. Here's, on the day of the speech, by the way, this is Trump, right here. And I know some people are going to say, well, his words shouldn't be considered for inciting violence. It's not the words. It's the good faith or the bad faith. I'll explain what I mean. Let's hear this.
Never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore. And that's what this is all about. And to use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will stop the steal. Today, I will lay out just some of the evidence proving that we won this election, and we won it by a landslide. This was not a close election. You know, I say sometimes jokingly, but there's no joke about it. I've been in 2 elections. I won them both, and the second one, I won much bigger than the first, okay?
Just so we're clear, none of that was true. Donald Trump did win the first election. He lost both by the popular vote. The popular vote don't necessarily count in those terms. I'm just making a point that from the standpoint of popularity, that answer will be no. On the second point, none of that had panned out, despite all of the money, all of the resources, all of the lawyers, all of the things that he had at his disposal came back with, no, we don't have it, with the exception of his henchmen and cronies. Even his own guy, Jesus Christ, Barr, even his own guy was basically saying, no, you don't have this. Look at the meetings between Trump and his cabinet, his people around him, and the fights that they were having on whether or not Trump should have sent military down to get the voting machines and declare martial law. These were the fights they were back there having on how far he was willing to fucking go to stay in office. His lawyers were pleading with him to keep the Sidney Powells and the Giulianis of the world out of that particular conversation. But of course, they were in that conversation making up ridiculous fucking claims. Donald Trump is telling millions it was stolen, it was stolen, it was stolen, which basically says there's no legitimacy to the election. And anything that you do under that context is legit because this election was illegitimate. Right? Why wouldn't it be that way? I mean, based on what Donald Trump is saying, the election has literally, America has basically been ended. You got to show that. You got to show that. It's not adequate enough to just scream it. While the Capitol was being attacked, because basically after that, the Capitol basically was attacked. Congressmen running Southern flags, the Confederacy, walking through the White House. You had congressmen hiding under desks, hiding behind beds, pushing the door to keep the people from coming out. You had cops in situations where they were getting beat to death. Well, one guy got beat to death. It was a violent raid on the Capitol of the United States, putting all of those people in danger with pipe bombs. You had a guy with zip ties. It was organized. They knew what they were looking for. And if they would have got their hands on any of those Congress members, God knows what would have happened in that point. Pipe bombs were found, meaning this could have turned extraordinarily bad. That's my point. Worse than what it did turn out to be. While this was going on, Mike Pence also there. Mike Pence got the rage from Donald Trump on this one because Donald Trump wanted Mike Pence to do something that was illegal. This is him, what people were raiding the Capitol. And by the way, this is him after Joe Biden has to come out and say, President, defend the Constitution. Do your goddamn job. Joe Biden had to say that. Right here. This is Trump.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special.
Go home. We love you. You're very special. It's been stolen. It hurts that it's stolen. We know that it's completely stolen. But hey, I think you guys should leave and not defend the Republic if it is indeed stolen. That video didn't go over well for obvious reasons, right? So another video comes out a day after when Donald Trump realizes how bad that was, how much shit he just stepped into with Republicans who were pissed off at him because they were also in the building, meaning the Capitol was raided. It's as if Donald Trump himself, who he felt, I guess, maligned by some of the Republican Party because they didn't necessarily help him do X or Y. He probably had no issue with the raid on the Capitol with those people in. None. It was only after he saw it where he thought to himself, that looks lowbrow. And then he came out with a video attacking the protesters that were rioting in his name. After all of this still keeps going on. Sidney Powell, Giuliani, the Cubans, the Venezuelans, the death, or the ghost of Hugo Chavez, and of course, the CIA is working with Kemp in Georgia to undermine Donald Trump. She's being sued for $1.3 billion. So is Giuliani. And Newsmax, that lawsuit is probably coming up. And the Pillow Guy, I wouldn't even be shocked if his ass gets sued. They slander this voting company relentlessly with nothing to show for it. Like this.
Georgia's probably going to be the first state I'm going to blow up, and Mr. Kemp and the Secretary of State need to go with it because they're in on the Dominion scam with their last-minute purchase or award of a contract to Dominion of $100 million, the State Bureau of Investigation for Georgia ought to be looking into the financial benefits received by Mr. Kemp and the Secretary of State's family about that time.
Just to clarify, you're saying that Governor Kemp, who's been a longtime ally of the president, is directly involved because of financial benefit in the conspiracy to defeat the president in Georgia?
We have certainly been told that there is evidence of that, and
that's extraordinary. That's extraordinary. And this level of crazy gets worse. If you look at the press conference with her and Giuliani, it is a clown show. But this is what they were going by. And this kind of reaches my point. Good faith. If the president of the United States had a good faith belief that he was being cheated, I have no issue with that president interrogating the results. Zero. I want to know who won. I've said that more than one times. So this channel had no issue with Donald Trump calling for recounts, or for that matter, getting his lawyer involved to basically see where the vote tally goes. I was against the notion of him saying it without any evidence for it, which is basically what it ended up. Meaning, just because you might have started with a good faith belief, which I don't even believe it started that way, towards the end, where all of your expenses run out, when all of your avenues are closed, at some point you got to recognize that you lost. And at no point was he willing to do that. He functioned in bad faith. And he functioned in bad faith for months, stirring up a crowd and whipping up a crowd to get them into certain hysteria over this particular notion about losing the race. That is a big fucking deal. Because honestly, how can you not see that telling millions of people that the process to which they've grown and organized around and grew up in was somehow utterly and fundamentally demolished because he lost? And not just he lost, he was cheated. How many of those people will respond? That's the point I'm getting here. The response, attack on the Capitol, is infinitely foreseeable. If you tell millions of people that their electoral system is fraudulent. It is the reason why you have concession speeches, because one group who had all of these people behind him that loved, he doesn't want that group to go belligerent and attack the other side in some kind of civil war. These political parties on some level are almost like these sides on a war. And yeah, it makes a big deal for there to be somewhat of a power sharing where one says, okay, I lost. I'm leaving. I'm going home. I have my villa and wherever. And the other one takes power. 4 years, same thing. It's the deal. It's the game that we play. Donald Trump decided he didn't want to play that game anymore and basically was trying to become God King. If you whip up a crowd like that, yeah, I think it's insurrection. When you threaten Secretary of State in Georgia, yeah, that's a problem, especially since you're threatening him with something that you don't even have the power to threaten him with. You're talking about after you take power, then you're going to come back and charge him with something. Yeah, all of those things are problematic to me, and all of those things, not even going after the crowd or trying to stop that crowd, having all of these other people had to step in order to stop the crowd, where Donald Trump comes in later making that stupid speech about how beautiful people they are as they raid the Capitol and try to chase down and grab congressmen. Yes, Donald Trump should be impeached. He earned it. And one more point. In the same way, I didn't particularly like the fact that Bush didn't get impeached, that Obama walked out. I'm going to look forward. I'm not looking back. And that is something that nobody ever does for any particular crime, especially if that person doesn't have $1 million in the bank. But whatever. In this very specific case, George Bush, let's tally up. $7 trillion in a war. He didn't even put it on the balance sheet. You had another situation where George Bush, 1 million Iraqis killed, 4,000 Americans lied us into a war, mass surveillance, the destruction of habeas corpus. All of that was under George Bush. And how do you walk into the next administration and give it a pass? Nancy Pelosi saying, yeah, we knew he was lying. So wait, you knew that that war criminal was lying and you didn't do anything about it, nor did you try to hold them accountable for it? Her point, it's divisive. But for whatever particular reason, now this is not divisive. So under normal circumstances, I would say selective justice is not justice, but this is not a selective justice case. This is a defense of the democracy or the republic itself. As broken, as fragmented, as ossified, as fucked up, and as, bad direction as it is. It's not his to take. Yeah, I think Trump should be impeached. And from the standpoint of, what happens after Trump, I don't believe for a moment that they will do it. But if to put the stake in the ground of saying this is not tolerated. You have live birth. You can send military to kill people abroad. You can give taxpayers or the rich more of the taxpayers' money. You can fleece the poor. You can, have law enforcement to do X or Y. But this is too far. Meaning you have a huge amount of space where you can fuck around and get rich in the governmental space. But that wasn't enough for you. You wanted to just stay. And that was the thing that was not allowed. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Donald Trump should be impeached. Unless you want the same behavior repeated in a few years, he should be impeached. If George Bush was impeached, I have a hard time believing that Obama would have been so cavalier with the thousands of people that he was killing with those drones. So for that matter, the same thing with Trump or the military activities, especially if they were held accountable at one point. Not holding George Bush accountable makes it an implicit allowance. And in Trump's case, that is not something we should implicitly allow. So, like, share, and of course, subscribe. God damn it.